Sex is a very taboo topic that doesn't get discussed often. Many parents have to talk with their children, and many rely on an outside source to do it for them. This means that all of the sex talk is predominantly learned in an informal setting through interactions with others in high school sex education. However, sex talks more often than not do not incorporate topics outside of safe intercourse. This uncertain and unclear understanding of sex, gender, and genitals leads to social repercussions that manifest in gender inequality. For the sake of the presentation, I will be using sex as an umbrella term. As of December 1st, these are the requirements for sex education across the country. 39 states and the District of Columbia mandate sex education and/or HIV education. Only 30 states mandate that when provided, the education meets certain requirements, and 17 states require that the content be medically accurate. When it comes to parent involvement, 40 states and DC require that parents are involved in sex education. Only 25 states notify parents that education will be provided, and 6 allow parents to remove their child from the instruction altogether. When it comes to content, 19 states require inclusion of information of condoms. 37 states require provisions about abstinence. 38 states in DC require prevention of teen dating violence and sexual violence to be covered. And only 35 states require information about healthy romantic relationships and sexual relationships to be covered. Most people get their information about sex through unwritten curriculums, which is anything that is learned that is not part of an official curriculum. This information has no way to be regulated. In a school setting, this can be learned through interactions with teachers, authority figures, and other peers. In a home setting, these are the behaviors children observe from their parents. This information often does not give a thorough enough understanding of sex, and the sex confusion continues to be passed down. A key example of this is the show Sex Education on Netflix, where high school students are so unfamiliar with sex, they pay for consultation. Ultimately, the basis of sex education most people get is the idea that women and men's genitals are opposite. This is due to the lack of concrete sex education and the reinforcement of beliefs in popular culture. The effects of this poor education can be witnessed through 3 different examples: the way college students interact amongst each other, the idea of what fields of study are important, and how that is reinforced in a professional setting, and last but not least, the dynamics of power when it comes to rape. Misunderstanding genitals. On a basic level, people are taught that men and women are opposite, and this is rooted on the belief of opposite genitalia. This goes a step further by then assigning certain characteristic traits to each person based on genitals. These traits not only build on that belief, but are equally polarizing. Some of these beliefs include thinking that men are strong and women are weak or weaker. Women are vulnerable and men are protectors. Men are aggressive and women are passive. These are just some examples, but the key point to take away is that men and women are really not that different, and that all the polarization and division is credited to misunderstanding those similarities. Women and men are put in boxes created from a set of socially accepted behaviors to reap the benefits of society, hence gender and gender performance. In a college setting, women feel like they have to perform their gender in order to reap the social benefits of college. To break it down, men throw parties and have alcohol, and women engage in behaviors to get their attention and get invited to those parties. Men hold the power in this situation because women feel like they need to cater to them. This goes off the belief that men are more aggressive and women are more passive. Men are the initiators and women respond. This is a common belief in courtship. By allowing that narrative to persist, women dress in revealing clothing to get the erotic attention of men and compete against other women to be sought out by them. At the end, although the act of dressing up is active, the power to initiate courtship is held by men. Some of the behaviors that get pushed are sexualized femininity, the fragile femininity, such as the way women flirt to get free drinks. All of this reinforces gender inequality. Corresponds with education in the professional setting. It all goes back to the idea that men are providers. Back in early America, men went to work and women took care of the home. Because men are believed to be stronger and more intelligent, the work that they did seemed superior. Now it is justified by having qualifications. However, this inequality can be seen by looking at the highest paying professions and the gender occupancy in those professions. Long story short, all the higher paying professions with a greater esteem are male-dominated fields. This is due to the fact that women are discouraged from pursuing these career paths at an early age. Classes with science, math, and engineering become socially less appealing to women because of their harsh appearance. Instead, women gravitate towards fields of study to do with caretaking, nurturing, such as nursing, teaching, and social work. This plays on the belief that only women can be emotional and that men are incapable of that skill. Regardless of that nurturing skill, that is not something that is valued as much as those science and math jobs, hence the wage gap. To combat this gap, more women nowadays are pushing higher education degrees to prevent workforce discrimination. However, there would be no men jobs, women jobs, and wage and education gaps if we came to the understanding that any gender is capable of doing any job. A similar thing happens in America with the dynamics of power and rape. Women are seen as vulnerable and men are seen as powerful. In the instance of men on women rape, for it to happen, a man must believe he is capable of overtaking the women. Because women are more passive and seen as vulnerable creatures, the man has to believe the woman won't respond in an aggressive manner. And since women have been taught that they are vulnerable, they don't believe they are capable of defending themselves. Along with that, women are taught that men are aggressive and dangerous, which teaches them to fear men. This fear serves to give the man the power in the situation, which can result in the woman to feel even more powerless. It can be hard to understand this concept because we have grown up with it. However, this is not the case in other places around the world. In the community of Jarai in Indonesia, Borneo, the women could not fathom the idea of rape. They claimed that a man's genitals were just a penis and they did not have the power to hurt them. Some of this makes more sense when we learn that people in Jarai see men and women as very similar. The similarities make it difficult for one person to have the power over the other person because they are seen as equals. This is not the same for America. In America, men and women are polarized, emphasizing one's power over the other. A lot of these problems would be solved if we had better sex education. For one, there's no standard across all 50 states to mandate sex education, and many of the beliefs that reinforce gender inequality stem from seeing men and women as opposites. This opposites initiates from the genitals. If we can teach people that genitals are not that different, people will begin to see that this also translates to the norms we have surrounded around genitals. This means that since genitals are pretty similar, we all have the ability to act a certain way, and that vulnerability, empathy, strength, and power can exist anywhere regardless of gender. The curriculum would have a 5-semester program that begins in 8th grade. It would start in 8th grade with Intro to Sex education, which would be a basic understanding of genitals, sex, gender, and healthy relationships. The second year would focus on the body, such as body functions, medical conditions that can affect the body, sexually transmitted infections, and such. The third year would be about healthy relationships and consent and what they look like, and gendered behaviors, courtship, contraceptive, relationship violence. And the fourth year would be focused on ways in which gender and sex are portrayed in popular culture and the way it affects behaviors. This way they would apply what they've learned to their everyday lives. In the last year, they can take that information and apply it to the rest of the world and see how sex, gender, and all of these concepts are socially constructed. A way to implement this is to have this go through the Department of Education. This way, the Department of Education could ask public schools to implement these programs in order to get funding. In order to fit these classes into everybody's schedules, they could happen once a week during physical fitness class once a semester. The teachers who are leading these courses should be certified through sex education classes, and they should be incentivized with a bonus pay for getting certification and teaching these classes. The certification should be renewed every 3 years to keep the information fresh and updated. In order for this to work, the Department of Education should create the programs, pass the order, equip the teachers with a comprehensive curriculum. This would result in people from across the country to have the same understanding of sex, which can lead to less gender inequality once we have emphasized the sameness amongst us all. It would also stop sex education from revolving around fear and intercourse to revolving around comprehension and analysis. Most sex education classes today simply scare students from engaging in intercourse by showing them pictures of STDs and talking about contraceptives and abstinence. Instead, about learning about all the aspects of the body will lead to less of a taboo around sex and more knowledge surrounding the topic. Here are my sources, and here is copyright.